What happened today in Bahrain might have just exposed the real pecking order of the 2026 season, and one top team is already in serious trouble. Ferrari showed terrifying one-lap speed. McLaren quietly completed almost 150 laps without a single major issue. Red Bull broke down, and Max Verstappen did not even get in the car. And Aston Martin? They might not even be ready to finish the first race. This is not speculation. This is day 1 of week 2, on a fully rubbered track, in representative conditions, where data finally tells the truth. And what that data is revealing could decide the championship before the season even begins. Stay with me, because one detail from today changes everything. And if you care about who will actually dominate 2026, subscribe now. Now that the surface is fully rubbered in, excuses disappear. Week 1 was about installation laps, sensor checks, basic validation. But week 2 is different. Grip is higher. Track evolution is real. Fuel loads are more representative. And today, for the first time, we saw something close to truth. Ferrari understood that. They did not waste time. Charles Leclerc went straight into aggressive short runs on the C3 compound. Not cautious laps. Not conservative programs. Attack laps. The front end looked sharp on turn-in. The rear looked planted under traction. The car changed direction with confidence. And here is the key detail. The lap time was not just quick. It was stable. Repeatedly within a tight window. That tells you the platform is strong. But here is where the tension begins to build. Because short runs can hide problems. Low fuel hides weaknesses. Fresh tires hide degradation. And that is exactly why the afternoon mattered more than the morning. Lewis Hamilton took over. Full fuel. Long stints. Consistent pace targets. And within a handful of laps, something shifted. Rear degradation started to climb. Not dramatically at first, but progressively. Medium-speed corners became unpredictable. The rear stepped out earlier than expected. And over the radio, Hamilton used a word engineers hate hearing. Disconnected. When a driver says the car feels disconnected, it means the feedback loop is broken. The inputs do not match the outputs. The trust begins to fade. And trust is everything in a new regulation cycle. Because these 2026 cars are heavier. More complex. More sensitive to balance changes. If the rear tires fade quickly, strategy becomes compromised. You push early, you pay later. You conserve early, you lose track position. And that creates a dilemma. Ferrari might have built the fastest qualifying car in the field. But if degradation remains this high, they will be defending more than attacking on Sundays. And here is the deeper layer most people are not discussing. If Ferrari must dial back the rear to protect tires, they sacrifice the very trait that makes them dangerous. That explosive rotation. That aggressive traction. Solve one issue, weaken another. This is the engineering trade-off that defines championships. And we are only on day 1. But what happened next makes this even more significant. Because while Ferrari chased peak speed, another team focused on something far more powerful. Control. McLaren did not chase headlines today. They chased certainty. From the very first hour, their program looked different. Structured. Calm. Deliberate. Lando Norris began the morning running aerodynamic comparisons. Subtle changes. Small adjustments. Back-to-back runs to validate correlation between wind tunnel and real track data. No dramatic glory laps. No flashy purple sectors. Just repetition. And repetition builds understanding. By midday, the numbers told a story most people overlooked. Consistency. Lap times within narrow margins. Minimal balance complaints. Predictable degradation curves. Then came the afternoon. Fuel loads increased. Stint lengths extended. Oscar Piastri joined the rotation, but Norris handled the heavier evaluation work. And this is where something critical happened. The car did not surprise them. No sudden instability. No overheating issues. No electrical gremlins. Nothing. Almost 150 laps completed across the day. That is not just mileage. That is power. Because every lap adds data. Every lap refines simulation models. Every lap improves race preparation. And in a new regulation era, data is more valuable than outright speed. Here is the strategic layer. If you already understand your car better than your rivals, you arrive at the first race with fewer unknowns. Fewer unknowns means fewer mistakes. And fewer mistakes win championships. But there is another detail that matters even more. Norris mentioned experimenting with overtaking lines. Think about that. Drivers do not experiment unless they trust the rear stability. They do not explore alternative entries unless the braking platform is secure. That suggests confidence under heavy fuel. Confidence under pressure. And confidence means adaptability. While Ferrari searched for peak performance, McLaren refined durability. While Red Bull repaired hydraulics, McLaren gathered clean data. While Aston Martin hid behind screens, McLaren built rhythm. And here is the quiet truth. The MCL40 may not look dramatic, but it looks complete. Stable front end. Controlled rear degradation. No visible bouncing issues. No cooling panic. No mysterious shutdowns. And in a season reset like this, the team that begins from stability has the strongest foundation for development. But this is where the narrative becomes even more complex. Because the team everyone expected to dominate this phase, barely completed meaningful laps. And that changes the entire competitive picture. Red Bull was supposed to arrive this week and take control. That was the expectation. Week 1 had been quiet, controlled, almost secretive. And when the second week began, everyone expected the real pace to appear. Instead, the garage door closed. Isaac Hadjar went out early in the morning. The installation lap looked normal. The second lap did not. Hydraulic pressure warnings appeared almost immediately. Power steering issues. Gearbox instability. And then the car returned to the garage. Not for a quick adjustment. For a full strip down. The RB22 sat on stands for nearly 3 hours. Panels off. Systems exposed. Engineers crowded around the rear assembly. And this is not the kind of issue you dismiss lightly. Hydraulics in modern cars control far more than steering. They influence gear shifts, differential behavior, even certain cooling flows. If there is instability there, it compromises everything. When the car finally returned to the track, something else stood out. Max Verstappen did not get in. He remained on the pit wall, headphones on, observing. Officially, Red Bull claimed a change in the testing program. Correlation work for their junior driver. Additional baseline data. But here is what makes this moment significant. This is the decisive week. Representative track conditions. Realistic fuel loads. Meaningful data. And your lead driver does not drive. That signals either supreme confidence or underlying caution. Because every lap not completed today must be recovered tomorrow. And testing time is limited. McLaren ran nearly 150 laps. Red Bull struggled to reach 50. That gap is not symbolic. It is developmental. It means fewer tire samples, fewer setup experiments, fewer race simulations. And here is the strategic risk. If the hydraulic weakness resurfaces later in the week, Verstappen enters the opening race with reduced adaptation to the car's true balance. These new 2026 cars behave differently. Heavier. More energy recovery complexity. Stricter aero sensitivity. Drivers need rhythm to extract everything. And rhythm requires mileage. Now, Red Bull is known for solving problems quickly. Their engineering response rate is elite. But even elite teams cannot replace lost track time instantly. And this creates something we have not seen in years. Vulnerability. A window. A small one, but real. Because if Ferrari perfects degradation, if McLaren maintains reliability, if Mercedes reveals hidden pace, then Red Bull cannot rely solely on past dominance. They must prove this new car is as robust as the previous era. And that proof has not arrived yet. But the most alarming situation today was not Red Bull. It was something far more fragile. And potentially far more damaging for the championship narrative. Aston Martin is not just behind. They are in danger. Fernando Alonso began the morning with a simple objective. Accumulate laps. Build confidence. Understand balance. Instead, after fewer than 30 laps, the car slowed. Smoke was not dramatic. There was no explosion. But the engine note changed. And that subtle change told the story. The Honda unit shut down again. Not a minor sensor glitch. Not a harmless warning light. The car returned to the garage and disappeared behind screens. Mechanics gathered around the power unit with inspection tools. Internal inspection. Cooling pathways examined. Combustion components checked. And the atmosphere shifted. Because this is not the first issue. It is a continuation. And repetition in testing is dangerous. These 2026 engines are more complex than ever. Higher electrical deployment. Greater thermal stress. Tighter packaging. If cooling is compromised even slightly, internal damage escalates quickly. That means this is not just about losing laps today. It is about long-term reliability risk. Aston Martin now has the lowest mileage of the entire grid across both weeks. Less understanding. Less correlation. Less preparation. And here is the psychological layer. When drivers lose track time, confidence erodes. Alonso thrives on rhythm. On feeling the edge. On pushing the limit progressively. If he arrives at the first race with minimal long-run data, he will be learning under pressure. And learning under pressure creates mistakes. But there is something even more concerning. The paddock atmosphere around Aston Martin feels tense. Conversations are shorter. Engineers are guarded. Because when power unit reliability becomes uncertain, strategy becomes irrelevant. You cannot fight for points if you cannot finish. And finishing right now is not guaranteed. There are even whispers circulating online about strained relationships and specification differences. Speculation spreads fast in pre-season. Most of it is noise. But noise appears when confidence disappears. And confidence is clearly fragile. So look at the contrast. McLaren is gathering clean data. Ferrari is refining peak speed. Red Bull is solving a mechanical setback. Mercedes is quietly evaluating. Aston Martin is troubleshooting survival. And that shifts the entire competitive map. Because if one of the projected contenders begins the season compromised, the fight at the front changes shape immediately. But there is still one more layer to this story. A layer most fans are underestimating. Because hidden within today's lap charts is a pattern that could redefine the midfield battle completely. Williams did not make noise today. They made progress. And sometimes, progress is more dangerous than speed. Carlos Sainz looked comfortable from the first stint. Not spectacular. Not headline-grabbing. Comfortable. That word matters more than people think. Because when a driver feels immediately at ease in a new regulation car, it means the platform is intuitive. Predictable on entry. Stable on exit. The data backs it up. Low drag figures on the straights. Strong top speed traces. And here is why that is important in Bahrain. Long straights reward efficiency. If your car cuts through the air cleanly, you defend position without destroying tires. That makes you difficult to pass. Very difficult. And when you are difficult to pass, strategy becomes powerful. Undercuts matter less. Track position matters more. Williams completed close to 100 laps. High mileage. Clean program. No visible mechanical panic. For a team rebuilding its identity, this is not small. It is foundational. Now shift to Alpine. Quietly, they also moved forward. Franco Colapinto ran a composed session. No major errors. Consistent lap times close to Pierre Gasly. That is significant. Because rookie instability often skews data. Today, Alpine gathered usable information. More importantly, weight reduction appears to be under control. The car looks leaner. More responsive in transitions. But there is still a weakness. Mid-corner speed. The car struggles to maintain rotation without scrubbing the front tires. That suggests aerodynamic inefficiency in medium speed sections. And over a race distance, that costs time. Still, they are no longer fighting basic balance problems. They are refining performance. That is a step forward. So now step back and look at the pattern. High mileage teams today share one trait. Stability. McLaren. Williams. To a lesser degree, Alpine. Lower mileage teams share another trait. Uncertainty. Red Bull with hydraulics. Aston Martin with engine reliability. Even Ferrari, with degradation concerns. And this is where the bigger picture emerges. In a regulation reset, development speed depends on clarity. If you understand your weaknesses early, you fix them early. If you are still diagnosing fundamental issues, you lose precious time. Testing is not just preparation. It is positioning. The teams that leave Bahrain with clean data arrive at the first race confident.